Welcome to Native Bidaské, Native News Online's weekly spotlight on the people making news and leading change in Indian country.
Welcome to another edition of Native Bidaské. I'm Levi Rickert, publisher, editor of Native News Online, and your host today. Welcome back to Native Bidaské. Last week we talked about elections. We have another election coverage today, and we have a friend of ours, Jonathan Nez, president of the Navajo Nation, and he's running for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District out in Arizona, and it is actually one of the largest geographical congressional districts in the United States.
Right.
Welcome, President Nez. How are you?
Hey, Levi. It's good to be back on the show. And yate, greetings to everyone, all the viewers. And yes, this Congressional District 2, is one of the largest districts in the country. It's over 58,000 square miles and over half the size, 60% of the state of Arizona.
Wow. And you presided over 27,000 square miles as vice president and president of the Navajo Nation during the pandemic at that. So how does it feel to be a congressional candidate? And actually, I understand you have some updates to give us since the last time you were on.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all the constituents, the voters in my district who signed my petition. The minimum amount to collect to be placed on the ballot is 1,600 signatures. We turned into the Arizona Secretary of State over 5,200 signatures, and we are on the ballot. And not just that, we are the Democratic nominee for this congressional race. So there is no primary challenger. We're going to be moving on to the general election.
That's great. So you have, I think, about 195 days left or thereabouts. And by the time this is broadcast, be less than that. But you have a lot of work to do, and you run against an incumbent. Tell us about your incumbent, Eli Crane.
Well, right now,
the incumbent congressman, but who's your opposition? Yes.
Right. Well, right now he does have a primary, so he's got a challenger on the Republican side, and we don't see him very often. Of course, there's a lot of noise happening in Washington D.C. Right, as we every day we turn on the television, there's something always going on, and sometimes there's some controversy. And I hate to say, Levi, that our opponent has just been right in the midst of all that controversy. He started off first by voting against keeping the government going. And then all of a sudden he was right in the midst of all the Speaker McCarthy issues. And he was one of those that voted him out. When we saw finally the U.S. House of Representatives start working together, bipartisan, and I guess it didn't work out for his agenda, and he wanted a speaker that follows one far right ideology, the MAGA ideology. And so we see that every time we turn on the news, and there's such division, but it's a small minority. And I'm vying to replace him so that we can bring common sense back to Congressional District 2 and to talk about the issues that are affecting our constituents. I grew up in the district, Levi, born here, went to school at the university, at Northern Arizona University, and served over 18 years in office. And I'm still here in the district, unlike my opponent, who does not even live in the district, Levi. He lives right outside the district. And I think the constituents of Congressional District 2 want someone that's from their area and that have experienced some of the things that they're going through as a people, as a constituency, and we're here to help.
Tell us, we talked about how big the district is. What are some of the major cities in Arizona? Is Flagstaff? Where are the big cities?
Well, we have Flagstaff, we have Prescott Valley, Payson, Globe, Coolidge, Florence, the city of Maricopa. Out of the 22 tribes in Arizona, 14 tribes are also in this district, and it is a very, very rural area.
So it extends from northern Arizona all the way south to the Mexican border, or not that far south?
Not that far south. It is just right. The southern border of this district is right above Casa Grande, and also wraps around the east side of Phoenix. It doesn't go right into Phoenix. It wraps around the east side of Phoenix, and then it goes back up north, going as far west as Wickenburg, and then straight up and catching the two Grand Canyon tribes, the Wallapai and Havasupai, and just west of Page, Arizona, of course, all of the Navajo Nation, all of the Hopi Nation, White Mountain Apache, San Carlos Apache as well.
That's great. Hey, this is a Native American show, so tell us this from the Native perspective. What are some of your constituencies of the Navajo Nation saying about you running? Are they excited? Are they with you? Or because
Well,
you're a pretty popular president, I know that. So,
well, Levi, there is a lot of excitement. We have been seeing new voter registrations in tribal communities, and as we look at the numbers, some tribal communities for the state and federal election, the turnout is like 20-25%. Navajo is about over 50%. Now, the goal here is to bring the turnout up to 70-75% in Navajo, bringing that 25% in the Apache tribal communities up to 50%. And there is a lot of excitement. Even the Republican Native Americans are signing our petition, even though they're not able to count those to put me on the ballot. But of course, they're just wanting to be a part of this historic run here in Arizona, to be the first Native American to serve the state of Arizona in Washington, D.C. and in Congress.
yeah, and certainly their vote will matter during the general election if they vote for Jonathan Nez. That's great. And then tell us what some of the activities you're engaging with at this time. Even it takes a lot of prep. You can't just try to do this 1 week before the election. So what are you doing now to really get the Native vote out, so that hopefully out of those 14 tribes you can get the vast majority?
Well, we are out in the communities and doing meet and greets and encouraging folks to register. And we're registering the Native American voters, and also encouraging them to register as many people as they can in their household, 18 years and over, because that's going to be critical to win this race. And we we kind of followed that same model that we had as we ran for the Navajo Nation presidency. As you remember, Levi, when I became the vice president, there was a big division on the Navajo Nation because of a provision that said that the Navajo president and the vice president has to speak the Navajo language, and that kind of tore us apart. And there was a lot of frustration. And so one of the strategies we had was to go back into the communities and listen to the people. That sounds weird to say. That's how you should be, right? Going into the communities and listening to the people. And, all across the country, we've been seeing different things happening in elections where candidates are not even showing up in their communities. And like I said, our opponent has, not been in our communities as much as he should. Of course, it's a large district, but, the Navajo Nation, San Carlos, White Mountain Apache have been saying, who is our congressman, and they're wondering where he's at. And of course, what we want to do is just go into the communities and listen to the people and hear what's important to them. And we did that when we were running for the Navajo Nation presidency. And I think because of that, we were able to to bring the people back together again. And I think there's a lot of frustration, not just here in Arizona, but all across the country about what's happening in Congress. They call it the do nothing Congress, this Congress right now that's there, you know, and then when they finally will start working together, someone has heartburn over it and tries to oust the speaker. So we need to bring common sense back to Washington, D.C. And just as Deb Haaland has said when she was running for Congress, you know, I say that too. They haven't heard a voice like ours coming from the state of Arizona. And I think we can bring some unity and to also bring some healing throughout the country, because I think there's some anger out there. But we need to address the very important issues that are affecting our people, not just in this district, but in the state and all across the country.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the issues that Native Americans face? I mean, you haven't been president of the Navajo Nation, and I remember you've had one or two visits to the White House that I remember, because we covered those. But you have a good grasp on what the people need from Navajo and some of the other tribes in Arizona. But for this congressional district, what can you offer Native Americans once you get to Washington, D.C.?
Well, that's a great question, Levi. Excuse me. You know, having 18 years of public service, we were able to build a network and we were able to, you know, create partnerships. And so that's what I bring to this district. You know, we have doors open that some folks don't have open in Washington, D.C. You know, we're great friends with Secretary Buttigieg, great friends with Secretary Haaland and others, many others, where we could be able to work and change some of the policies and regulations where you don't even have to legislate it. It could be a secretarial change. And, you know, being from a tribal community, I know how difficult it is to get infrastructure through federal lands. Federal lands in the state of Arizona are plenty. We need to go through a lot of federal regulations in order to get infrastructure through federal lands. Federal lands may be the BLM, the Forest Service lands, the Park Service lands, and tribal lands as well. And in order to get broadband, telecommunication, electricity, and water to folks, we need to work with the federal government to make sure those right-of-way processes are streamlined and to follow up on you know, projects that need to get completed for the constituents. And I've had a lot of experience. You know, I as I mentioned to many people, I'm going to hit the ground running. It's not going to be on January during inauguration. It's going to be the day after we win this election. We're going to be advocating for the constituents of this district by lining up those priorities, what we're hearing from these meet and greets and the priorities that this district have. And I've heard a lot. And you know, Levi, I have had experience with water rights settlements, bringing our fair share of water into our communities. And you hear that I hear that everywhere I go in Prescott Valley, Globe, Florence, you know, Payson, the need for water, because a lot of these communities are just growing. And we need to get our fair share of water from the Colorado River, and also, you know, having the international companies stay out of drilling from the precious groundwater that's here. And I think that's been a big priority here in the state of Arizona and in my district. You know, I hear that everywhere I go.
Mm-hmm. And just recently, and there's been some movement in the last week or so, the Supreme Court of Arizona upheld an abortion law that was adopted back in 1864, before Arizona even became a state. What can you tell us about the issue, and what would you do if you were a congressperson?
Well, first of all, as you know, Levi, in the Indian country, there's a concept of self-reliance, self-sufficiency that we've been handed from generation to generation. We've been handed that way of thinking. In Navajo, they call it tahuajitego, the ability to do for yourself. And that's choice. We don't need the courts, judges to determine what is important or what needs to be done to our own bodies. Or we don't need elected officials to interfere in deciding on what our women, the health care that they choose. We always say those choices are yours as an individual, and you make those decisions with you, excuse me, with you and the Creator. And it shouldn't be for the judges. It shouldn't be for the elected officials. And I've been standing on that ever since I've been in public office, that inherent sovereignty is important. In Native Americans, we always say, we use a concept of sovereignty, the ability to govern yourself. But inherent sovereignty, we don't really talk about as much. Inherent sovereignty is the individual choice to do for yourself. And I think that's the bottom line that we're fighting for. Individuals have the choice, and they'll make that decision with their families, and also have their faith be a part of that decision as well.
And Arizona has switched. We have two Democratic senators and voted for Joe Biden last time. Where do you see it this year, 2024? And I know Ruben Gallego is going to run in for the Senate for the Democratic seat. But where do you see it coming down? I mean, is it going to be a tight race? Is it? And I guess follow-up question to that would be, what are you doing to reach the other side, so to speak,
right,
to let them know that you can work with them?
Well, I've worked with everyone during my time in office as an elected official. In Navajo, you don't say that you're a Democrat or a Republican when you run. Mm-hmm. But I did choose a vice president that was a Republican, so that we could be able to work together on the issues and have an opportunity to have doors open for not just us, but for the Navajo people or our constituency. And here it's the same way. I grew up in a very conservative home. Both my parents Republican. I grew up with those values. But of course, being a Democrat also means too that there are folks that have a hard time helping themselves, and we got to help them out as well. And to make sure that this country or this Congress looks like the United States in terms of diversity. We should have different voices in Washington, D.C. to advocate for our people, because a Native American can bring a different perspective into the halls of Congress than maybe others. And, when it comes to climate change, we see the Earth as Mother Earth, a different perspective. And we got to take care of Mother Earth. And, we got to take care of our environment. And we also have to bring resources into the communities that will not harm the environment. And so, to reach across the aisle, I try to stay in the middle as much as I can, because I'm not far right, I'm not far left, but my focus is on the issues that are important to the people. And that's elder care, right? To be able to bring in resources for elders to protect Medicare, Medicaid, also to bring in child care services into the community, especially in rural communities and tribal communities. Rural America has been ignored far too long. And I think that's the reason why there's so much frustration, because people in rural America feel they have been ignored for some time. And we need someone in Congress that will advocate to bring jobs into rural America, rural Arizona, and also to use their experience to bring resources home. And right now, our elected leader has yet to bring any direct spending dollars into our congressional district because he doesn't believe in it. And that money doesn't go back into the coffers. It goes somewhere else. It's going to go to another state, to another district. But yet we need those dollars because we're all taxpayers. We just did our federal income tax not too long ago. So we should be able to get our fair share of dollars back into our communities to improve the quality of life for our people.
Yes. Now, I understand you had your fundraising is been pretty substantial so far. You broke a record. Tell us about that. And then obviously there's a need. It's just because you had successful quarters doesn't mean that that's, you have a long way to the election. So talk about your fundraising efforts.
Well, our fundraising, and I appreciate many people donating to our campaign. Many people from Indian country as well, and some are like $5, Levi, $10. In tribal communities, some folks can't give as much, but that's how we're also gauging the excitement for our campaign, that people, first time donations coming from tribal communities and tribal citizens, and of course others all across the country, believing in our campaign. And I appreciate that support. And, my team has told me that our campaign, there has been, I'm not the first person to run for Congress, or a Native American or a Navajo to run for Congress. We've had Derek Watchman, we had Jack Jackson Jr., we had Mary Kim Titla from San Carlos Apache, Winona Benali Beldanegro. They set the stage for my run. But, when it comes to fundraising, it's pretty difficult. But there's an excitement to this. And I just was told by my team that we have raised the most funds of those candidates that I mentioned combined. And so we have been able to bring in dollars to our campaign. And we welcome contributions from $20, $25, and it goes a long way. We got to compete with the Phoenix media market where, the Senate race and the U.S. presidential races are making the prices for TV and radio go up high. And, we have to compete with that. And, we are very rural district, but I think folks all across the country are helping and recognize that we can flip the seat and bring it back to common sense.
Yes, so thank you, and good luck in your campaign fundraising endeavors and the campaign overall. And I hope to get out there, spend some time with you yet this year, and follow you on the campaign trail for a day or so. That'd be fun. Anything else you want to say, President Nez?
Well, let me just add to that. As you know, I'm a runner. We are planning on running across the district in different segments of the community, and that's going to be our meet and greet. We're going to be going into communities to listen and hear directly from our constituents, and we're literally running for Congress.
I love it.
One community to the next, and it'll be an opportunity for citizens. And I hope people realize these meet and greets are for people to share their perspective and not to protest. Enough of that. Let's get back to common sense. Let's get back to civility, and let's have people share with their candidate what is pressing for them, things that are on their hearts and on their minds.
Good luck to you, sir, and we'll have you back on Native Bidaské before the end of the campaign, and hopefully recover. And I love the idea of you running through the district. That's wonderful. So, and to our viewers, Chi Miigwech for tuning in to another edition of Native Bidaské. We've been talking to Jonathan Nez, former president of the Navajo Nation. He is running for the 2nd congressional seat, and he needs funds. So feel free to send his campaign. Well, good luck, sir. And
all right.
Tune in again next week to another edition of Native Bidaské, Chimigwich.
Oh, yeah, Levi.
If you appreciate what we do here at Native News Online, we invite you to donate to support our continued work covering Indian country. You can scan this code with your smartphone or go to the link located below this video to donate today. We greatly appreciate your support. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And be sure to scan this code or go to the link below to subscribe to our newsletter. Thank you for joining us today, and please be sure to join us again next week for another episode of Native Bidaské, Chimigwech.